Power isn't in the loudest voice. It's not in threats, arguments, or desperate attempts to prove dominance. True power is silent, calculated, unshakable. Think about the men who command respect without uttering a word. The ones who walk into a room and shift the energy. The ones people hesitate to challenge. That's not luck, it's strategy. A stoic mindset that makes them unreadable, untouchable, and ultimately feared. And here's the truth. If your enemies can predict you, they can control you. If they can manipulate your emotions, they own you. That ends today. This video isn't about empty confidence or fake bravado. It's about mastering emotional strength, controlling what others know about you, and moving with silent power, so you become someone they can't ignore, but more importantly, someone they can't break. I'll break down 7 powerful tactics used by the most stoic, dominant, and respected men throughout history. These strategies are not theories. They're practical, actionable, and designed to make you unshakable under pressure. By the end of this video, you'll have the blueprint to command respect, exude quiet dominance, and make your enemies think twice before crossing you. So, before we begin, tell me, have you ever dealt with someone who tried to undermine you? How did you handle it? Drop your experience in the comments below. I want to hear your story. Now, let's get started. 1. Master your emotions. There is no greater power than a man who cannot be broken. No greater fear than facing someone whose emotions are untouchable. The second you let anger dictate your actions, you surrender control to your enemies, to the situation, to everything except yourself. Think about it. When someone tries to provoke you, what do they want? A reaction. They want to see you flinch, explode, lose composure. Because the moment you do, they know they own you. They found the trigger that controls you. And once they have that, you are no longer a man in control. You are a puppet. Most people live their entire lives reacting, letting external forces dictate their emotions. A slight insult, a disrespectful glance, a frustrating comment, and suddenly they erupt. And in that eruption, they reveal their weakness, their lack of control. The world doesn't respect a man who cannot govern himself. And your enemies, they thrive on your instability. This is why stoic warriors, leaders, and men of true power mastered emotional strength. They understood that anger is not power. Reactivity is not dominance. True power is in silence, in restraint, in the ability to remain unshaken when the world expects you to crumble. Marcus Aurelius put it best. The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength. A man who masters his emotions dictates his reality. A man who cannot be rattled forces his enemies to question their tactics. The moment they realize they cannot provoke you, they begin to fear you. Not because of what you say, but because of what you don't say. Dylan knew this well. He worked in a high-stakes corporate environment, surrounded by sharks in suits, men who thrived on mind games and manipulation. One colleague in particular had made it his mission to get under Dylan's skin. Passive-aggressive remarks in meetings, subtle insults, deliberate attempts to undermine him. A lesser man would have snapped, fought back, wasted energy trying to win a battle of words. Dylan did the opposite. He remained still, unshaken. While the others in the room tensed up, waiting for a response, Dylan simply looked at his adversary. Calm, composed, unreadable. He didn't give him what he wanted. At first, the aggressor smirked, thinking he had won. But as seconds passed, that smirk faded. The room grew tense, uncomfortable. Dylan's silence became a force of its own. It didn't just reject the insult, it sent it back, multiplied in weight. The more Dylan refused to react, the more desperate the man became, until finally he backed down. Not because Dylan had threatened him, not because he had fought back, but because a man who cannot be rattled is a man who cannot be controlled. This is the power of emotional mastery. It is not about suppressing emotions, it's about commanding them. It's about understanding that in a battle of power, the one who keeps his composure holds the advantage. Imagine you are standing in front of an opponent, locked in a silent battle. He throws words like daggers, trying to cut you, trying to shake you, but you stand firm, no flinch, no reaction. He grows restless. He repeats himself, this time louder. His voice rises, but you remain still. What happens next? He begins to falter, his own energy wasted on nothing. And in that moment, you have won, not through action, but through inaction. A lion does not respond to the barking of a dog. It does not lower itself to acknowledge something beneath it. And the moment you adopt this mindset, the world will begin to shift in your favor. If you let someone provoke you, they win. If you let someone dictate your emotions, they own you. But when you maintain control, when you choose restraint over reaction, you flip the script. They become the ones who are unsettled. They start wondering what you're thinking, what you might do, why you refuse to engage. And suddenly, the power dynamic shifts in your favor. The modern world glorifies reactivity. People think that being loud, aggressive, and constantly responding makes them strong. But the strongest men in history, warriors, emperors, strategists, understood the value of restraint. They knew that anger blinds you, while control sharpens you. So how do you master this? First, recognize your triggers. What makes you angry? What throws you off balance? Understand them, dissect them, strip them of their power. Most people are unaware of their triggers until it's too late. Be different. Know them before they know you. Second, train yourself to pause. When emotions surge, breathe. Let the wave of anger pass before making a move. This single habit alone can transform how the world perceives you. Third, remind yourself, your reaction is your choice. No one can make you lose control unless you let them. Most people give away their power freely, reacting without thinking, exploding at the slightest provocation. The men who are truly feared, they don't. They keep their cards close. They make the world guess their next move. This is your edge. The ability to stand amidst chaos and remain unmoved. The ability to hear insults and remain unaffected. The ability to operate in a world that thrives on emotional manipulation and yet remain in complete control. Your silence is more terrifying than an outburst. Your restraint is more powerful than aggression. The next time someone tries to provoke you, don't give them the satisfaction. Stand firm, hold your ground, because the man who controls himself controls everything. To maintain an unshakable presence. Some men enter a room and the energy shifts. People turn, even if they don't know why. It's not because these men are loud or demanding. It's not because they seek attention. It's because they don't need to. Powerful men command respect before they even speak. Weak men, on the other hand, overcompensate. They fill the silence with unnecessary words. They move anxiously. They constantly scan the room to see who is watching. But real power? It doesn't need validation. It doesn't beg for attention. It simply is. The strongest men throughout history, leaders, warriors, strategists, understood this. Presence alone can be a weapon, and those who master it don't just demand respect. They make others second-guess their own position. People don't respect words. They respect certainty. And certainty isn't spoken, it's felt. The way you walk, the way you stand, the way you own space without hesitation. These things send messages louder than anything you could ever say. You've seen it before. A man walks into a room, silent but undeniable. He isn't seeking approval. He isn't adjusting his tie nervously, fidgeting with his hands, or looking around for validation. He simply exists in full confidence. And because of that, people notice. This is what weak men fail to understand. They think presence comes from talking, from making sure people hear them. But those who are truly in control do not need to prove themselves with words. They let their energy speak first. There's a reason why the most respected figures in history, from emperors to modern-day CEOs, are never the loudest in the room. They understand that power is about perception, and perception is shaped by silence, by control, by the ability to hold one's ground without the need for excess. Alex was never the loudest in the room. He never interrupted, never fought for attention. Yet somehow people always listened when he spoke. His colleagues respected him. His rivals hesitated before challenging him. It wasn't because of some secret technique. It wasn't about intimidation. It was about presence. Alex moved with certainty. His steps were deliberate, his shoulders squared, his eyes focused, never darting around like a man seeking approval. He took up space, not forcefully, but naturally. One day, in a high-stakes boardroom meeting, a colleague, loud, brash, desperate to assert dominance, tried to undermine him. The man spoke fast, his words sharp, his tone aggressive. Everyone turned to Alex, expecting him to retaliate, but he didn't. He simply sat back, locked eyes with his challenger, and said nothing. Seconds passed. The room grew tense. The aggressor, expecting a fight, became uncomfortable. He fidgeted. His confidence wavered. He had expected resistance, an argument, a battle of words. Instead, he got silence, and in that silence, he lost control. When Alex finally spoke, he did so slowly. His words measured. No excess, no desperation. And in the end, when he finished, people listened, because they knew his words carried weight. That is power. Not in how much you say, but in how much you don't. Think about the predators of the wild. The lion doesn't roar before attacking. It moves with deliberation, observing, calculating. The storm doesn't announce itself. It simply arrives, undeniable in its force. Humans react the same way. When a man stands firm, controlled, unshaken, he creates uncertainty in others. People second-guess themselves. They hesitate because they can't predict him. And what people can't predict, they fear. This is why silence is power. A man who does not speak unnecessarily, who moves deliberately, who controls space rather than yielding it. This is a man who will always command respect. Not through intimidation, not through aggression, but through the sheer force of his presence. Mastering body language is the foundation. Posture tells the world everything before you even open your mouth. Standing tall, without stiffness, signals quiet confidence. Moving with intention, never rushing, projects control. A firm stance, free of nervous fidgeting, radiates composure. Controlling your gaze shifts the balance of power. Eyes that dart around seeking validation betray insecurity. A steady, deliberate gaze forces others to acknowledge your presence. Most men rush to speak because they fear silence. But silence is not weakness, it's leverage. Owning space without force creates authority. Weak men shrink themselves. Strong men claim space, not with arrogance, but with undeniable presence. Sitting or standing, their movements are deliberate. They never apologize for taking up space. Seeking approval kills presence. The moment you stop caring who notices you, they will notice you more. A man who does not seek validation, who does not fight for attention, becomes the one people naturally respect. A lion does not seek validation. A king does not beg for recognition. A storm does not announce itself. It simply arrives. You do not need to prove yourself to the world. You need to exist in full certainty. And when you do, people will notice, not because you demand it, but because you cannot be ignored. 3. Let your actions speak. A lion does not announce that it is a lion. It does not roar to prove its strength. It simply walks, moves, and dominates its territory. The jungle listens. The weak ones sense its presence and step aside. No words, no warnings, just existence in full control. This is how real power operates. You don't need to convince anyone of who you are. You show them. Words are cheap. Promises can be twisted. Intentions can be questioned. But results? They are undeniable. People don't believe what you say, they believe what they see. You can declare that you're strong, disciplined, or unstoppable, but none of it matters unless your actions match your words. And when your enemies see the reality of what you are, when your results speak louder than their doubts, they have no choice but to respect it. Weak men explain. Strong men execute. A man who wastes time justifying himself has already lost. The world does not reward those who talk. It rewards those who act. Epictetus understood this deeply. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. The ones who truly dominate, mentally, physically, strategically, do not waste breath arguing their worth. They move with calculated precision. They let discipline carve their reputation. They remove the need for explanation by making their actions so loud that no one can deny them. John embodied this truth. He was surrounded by men who thrived on appearances, who talked endlessly about their plans, their ambitions, their inevitable success. He said nothing. While they spoke, he worked. While they looked for recognition, he focused. While they crafted speeches about what they would achieve, he built something real. No one paid attention at first. No one believed he was a threat. He was quiet, after all. He wasn't seeking approval. But then, one by one, those same men who once mocked his silence started watching. They saw his results, they noticed his presence, and suddenly the man they ignored became the man they couldn't compete with. The turning point came at a company event. A colleague, loud, boastful, always eager to assert his superiority, challenged him. "You never say much, John. What exactly do you even do here?" John didn't flinch, he didn't argue. He simply handed over a performance report that showed his numbers, his results, his impact. The entire room saw the truth laid bare. No exaggeration, no embellishment, just cold, undeniable proof. The loud man fell silent. There was nothing left to say. That is the power of action. It removes doubt. It eliminates debate. When your results stand strong, your enemies lose their leverage. Picture yourself standing at the base of a mountain. A group of men around you are talking, bragging about how they could reach the peak, how they would dominate the climb, how one day they will stand at the summit. You say nothing. You start climbing. You take each step with focus. You endure the pain, the setbacks, the struggle. You reach the top. And when you stand there above them all looking down, their words no longer matter. They can argue all they want. They can claim they are just as capable. But there you are, undeniable, unshakable. The proof is beneath your feet. This is how you silence doubters. This is how you command respect. A man of discipline does not chase validation. He earns it, not by demanding attention, but by becoming someone so competent, so consistent, so powerful that others have no choice but to take notice. Every word you say must be backed by something real. Every claim you make must have a foundation of action. If you say you are strong, show it in your resilience. If you say you are disciplined, show it in your habits. If you say you will succeed, work so relentlessly that success becomes inevitable. Weak men seek shortcuts. They crave recognition before they deserve it. They overpromise and underdeliver. Their words outpace their reality, and when the world sees the cracks, their credibility crumbles. You are not here to convince. You are here to prove. The next time someone doubts you, do not waste your breath explaining yourself. Do not fall into the trap of trying to persuade them. Instead, step forward and do the work. Let time be your witness. Let discipline be your evidence. Because when your actions become undeniable, no enemy, no critic, no doubter can stand against you. 4. Never overreact to insults. A fire cannot burn without oxygen. An insult cannot land without reaction. The moment you respond with anger, you validate the attack. You hand over control to the one provoking you. Powerful men do not get offended. They do not waste energy defending their pride. They absorb the insult, render it meaningless, and leave their enemies powerless. Imagine standing in a storm. The wind howls, the rain beats against you, but you remain still, unmoved. The storm expends its fury, but you do not break. And then, after exhausting itself, it fades. That's what happens when you refuse to react to insults. Weak men take the bait. They argue, they defend, they lash out, exactly as their enemies hoped. Strong men remain silent. Their indifference is a wall no attack can penetrate. Most people don't realize that when they respond to an insult, they are playing into the hands of the one who attacked them. The person who insults you wants one thing, a reaction. They feed off your anger, your frustration, your loss of control. The moment you react, they win. An insult is not about truth, it's about manipulation. It's a tool to get inside your mind, to force you into a position where you feel the need to prove yourself. But the moment you feel the need to prove yourself, you have already lost. A man who is truly powerful does not feel the need to defend his worth. He lets his existence speak for itself. Epictetus understood this deeply. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. If someone calls you weak, it does not make you weak. If someone mocks your intelligence, it does not make you less capable. The only thing that gives an insult power is your acceptance of it. David knew this well. He worked in an office where mind games were the norm. One colleague in particular, arrogant, insecure, desperate for dominance, tried to make a habit of belittling him. At first, David took the bait. He defended himself, argued back, tried to win the exchange. But every time, the other man smirked. Because he had already won. He had forced David into a reaction, had pulled him into a game where anger made him look weak. Everything changed when David stopped responding. The next time the insults came, he said nothing. No anger, no defense. Just a steady gaze, a faint smirk, a silent rejection of the bait. The shift was immediate. The aggressor, expecting a fight, found himself battling silence. He repeated himself louder this time, waiting for a reaction. But David gave him nothing. And in that moment, the dynamic flipped. The one who once thrived on insults now looked exposed, desperate for validation that he was never going to get. Indifference destroys those who rely on provocation. When you don't react, they are left questioning themselves. Their insults fall flat, their power vanishes, and they realize, perhaps for the first time, that they never had control over you in the first place. Picture yourself standing before an opponent, unshaken. He throws words like weapons, waiting for a flinch, but you remain still. His frustration grows. He repeats himself, trying harder, yet your silence only makes him weaker. His words, once sharp, now seem desperate, because he isn't fighting you, he's fighting his own insignificance. The greatest power lies in restraint. Anger is predictable. It makes you easy to manipulate. But a man who controls his emotions, he forces the world to react to him, not the other way around. No one can insult you unless you allow it. Words have no meaning unless you give them weight. The moment you decide that an insult is beneath you, it loses all its power. A lion does not turn its head when a dog barks. It does not respond to the noise of creatures beneath it. It walks with silent dominance, unaffected by the chaos around it. And the weaker ones? They eventually fall silent, realizing that they never had the power to shake the lion in the first place. The weak crave validation. They seek acknowledgement, a response, proof that their words carry weight. When they don't get it, they collapse under their own insignificance. A man who is immune to insult is untouchable. The first step is recognizing that anger is a leash. The moment you let someone else control your emotions, you allow them to lead you wherever they want. The second step is understanding silence as a weapon. When someone insults you, and you meet them with complete indifference, it forces them to question their own words. They expect a reaction. When they don't get it, they become uncomfortable. The third step is to develop an internal sense of self-worth. The only reason insults work on most people is because they seek external validation. If someone calls you weak, and you believe in your own strength, their words hold no power. If someone mocks your intelligence, but you know your own capabilities, their words mean nothing. An insult is a test of whether you are controlled by others or by yourself. The moment you no longer need to defend yourself, you become impenetrable. The next time someone tries to provoke you, do nothing. Let them exhaust themselves. Let them reveal their own insecurity. And while they struggle to find power over you, stand firm, unshaken, untouchable. Forever overreact to insults. A fire cannot burn without oxygen. An insult cannot land without reaction. The moment you respond with anger, you validate the attack. You hand over control to the one provoking you. Powerful men do not get offended. They do not waste energy defending their pride. They absorb the insult, render it meaningless, and leave their enemies powerless. Imagine standing in a storm. The wind howls, the rain beats against you, but you remain still, unmoved. The storm expends its fury, but you do not break. And then, after exhausting itself, it fades. That's what happens when you refuse to react to insults. Weak men take the bait. They argue, they defend, they lash out, exactly as their enemies hoped. Strong men remain silent. Their indifference is a wall no attack can penetrate. Most people don't realize that when they respond to an insult, they are playing into the hands of the one who attacked them. The person who insults you wants one thing, a reaction. They feed off your anger, your frustration, your loss of control. The moment you react, they win. An insult is not about truth, it's about manipulation. It's a tool to get inside your mind, to force you into a position where you feel the need to prove yourself. But the moment you feel the need to prove yourself, you have already lost. A man who is truly powerful does not feel the need to defend his worth. He lets his existence speak for itself. Epictetus understood this deeply. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. If someone calls you weak, it does not make you weak. If someone mocks your intelligence, it does not make you less capable. The only thing that gives an insult power is your acceptance of it. David knew this well. He worked in an office where mind games were the norm. One colleague in particular, arrogant, insecure, desperate for dominance, tried to make a habit of belittling him. At first, David took the bait. He defended himself, argued back, tried to win the exchange. But every time the other man smirked. Because he had already won. He had forced David into a reaction, had pulled him into a game where anger made him look weak. Everything changed when David stopped responding. The next time the insults came, he said nothing. No anger, no defense. Just a steady gaze, a faint smirk, a silent rejection of the bait. The shift was immediate. The aggressor, expecting a fight, found himself battling silence. He repeated himself, louder this time, waiting for a reaction. But David gave him nothing. And in that moment, the dynamic flipped. The one who once thrived on insults now looked exposed, desperate for validation that he was never going to get. Indifference destroys those who rely on provocation. When you don't react, they are left questioning themselves. Their insults fall flat, their power vanishes, and they realize, perhaps for the first time, that they never had control over you in the first place. Picture yourself standing before an opponent, unshaken. He throws words like weapons, waiting for a flinch, but you remain still. His frustration grows. He repeats himself, trying harder, yet your silence only makes him weaker. His words, once sharp, now seem desperate. Because he isn't fighting you, he's fighting his own insignificance. The greatest power lies in restraint. Anger is predictable. It makes you easy to manipulate. But a man who controls his emotions, he forces the world to react to him, not the other way around. No one can insult you unless you allow it. Words have no meaning unless you give them weight. The moment you decide that an insult is beneath you, it loses all its power. A lion does not turn its head when a dog barks. It does not respond to the noise of creatures beneath it. It walks with silent dominance, unaffected by the chaos around it. And the weaker ones, they eventually fall silent, realizing that they never had the power to shake the lion in the first place. The weak crave validation. They seek acknowledgement, a response, proof that their words carry weight. When they don't get it, they collapse under their own insignificance. A man who is immune to insult is untouchable. The first step is recognizing that anger is a leash. The moment you let someone else control your emotions, you allow them to lead you wherever they want. The second step is understanding silence as a weapon. When someone insults you and you meet them with complete indifference, it forces them to question their own words. They expect a reaction. When they don't get it, they become uncomfortable. The third step is to develop an internal sense of self-worth. The only reason insults work on most people is because they seek external validation. If someone calls you weak and you believe in your own strength, their words hold no power. If someone mocks your intelligence, but you know your own capabilities, their words mean nothing. An insult is a test of whether you are controlled by others or by yourself. The moment you no longer need to defend yourself, you become impenetrable. The next time someone tries to provoke you, do nothing. Let them exhaust themselves. Let them reveal their own insecurity. And while they struggle to find power over you, stand firm, unshaken, untouchable. 5. Control what others know about you. A predator never reveals its next move. In the wild, a lion conceals its intentions, and a chess grandmaster hides his strategy. The truly formidable understand that the less others know about you, the greater your power. When you keep your vulnerabilities secret, you deny your enemies the ammunition they crave. Sharing every detail about your plans, thoughts, or emotions leaves you open to manipulation. In a world where information is currency, oversharing means giving away your wealth for free. When you reveal too much, you expose your weaknesses. Your ambitions, struggles, and plans become a roadmap for those determined to exploit them. Weak men crave validation by broadcasting their every thought. They mistakenly believe that transparency builds trust. Instead, it creates opportunities for others to use your words against you. True strength lies in measured silence. When you choose to show only what you want others to see, you maintain the upper hand. Your controlled mystery transforms you into an enigma that others cannot decipher. The Stoic philosophy teaches us that controlling what others know about you is a form of self-mastery. The idea is simple yet profound. Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. This isn't about deception. It's about exercising restraint. It's about understanding that every piece of information you release affects how you are perceived. By carefully managing your public persona, you force your enemies to grapple with uncertainty. They become anxious, questioning your next move, because they lack the clarity they need to manipulate you. In this state of uncertainty, your power grows exponentially. Chris experienced this transformation firsthand. In his early career, he was an open book. He shared every detail of his professional strategies and personal challenges with colleagues and competitors alike. At first, this openness seemed like a virtue, a way to build trust and camaraderie. But over time, Chris discovered that his transparency was a liability. Competitors began to exploit his disclosed weaknesses, undermining his efforts before he could act. His colleagues used his shared ambitions as leverage against him in meetings and negotiations. One day, Chris decided to change his approach. He began to withhold his inner thoughts and strategies. Instead of revealing every detail, he offered only what was necessary, enough to demonstrate his competence, but not enough to expose his vulnerabilities. Gradually, those around him noticed a shift. The same individuals who once took advantage of his openness started to treat him with a newfound respect. They no longer saw him as an open target. They saw him as a man of mystery, a man whose inner workings were hidden and whose actions were unpredictable. His controlled reserve forced his enemies into a state of perpetual uncertainty. Imagine yourself in a situation where your every move is shrouded in mystery. Visualize walking into a high-stakes negotiation with a competitor who cannot read you. Every gesture, every pause, every carefully measured word adds to your aura of control. Your competitors try to predict your intentions, but they find nothing to latch onto. Their attempts to undermine you falter because they lack the information they need. This is the power of mystery, a force that transforms vulnerability into strength. The more enigmatic you are, the more cautious your adversaries become. They are left to wonder, to speculate, and ultimately to fear the unknown potential of your next move. A man who withholds his inner thoughts is like a fortress with high walls. Each secret you keep is a stone in that wall, protecting your core from external attacks. In contrast, a man who reveals too much is like an open gate, inviting adversaries to enter and exploit every weakness. When you learn to control the flow of information about yourself, you command respect simply through the aura of mystery you create. Your silence speaks volumes. It says that you are in control, that you do not bend to the whims of others, and that your true strength lies beneath the surface, unseen and untouchable. This approach is not merely about avoiding damage, it's about cultivating a powerful presence. By revealing only what you choose, you set the terms of engagement. You make it clear that while others can see the outline of your intentions, the details remain your secret. This forces them to operate on assumptions, which are inherently unreliable. Their miscalculations become their downfall, while you stand firm, unyielding, and unpredictable. Adopt the mindset that every word you withhold is a victory over those who would try to use you. Recognize that your value is not diminished by silence, but enhanced by the control you exert over your personal narrative. When you master this, you transform not only how others perceive you, but also how you perceive yourself. You become a man who does not give away his power on a silver platter, but instead guards it fiercely. In doing so, you create an environment where your enemies are left disoriented and disempowered, and where your own strength remains unquestioned. Ultimately, controlling what others know about you is a cornerstone of Stoic wisdom. It is a deliberate act of self-preservation and empowerment. Embrace the power of mystery, and let your silence be a testament to your unassailable strength. 6. Make power moves in silence. A predator does not roar before it strikes. A warrior does not announce his attack. A grandmaster does not reveal his strategy. Power is not declared, it is demonstrated. The moment you announce your plans, you expose them to interference. People will question, doubt, or attempt to sabotage you, sometimes intentionally, sometimes without even realizing it. Even those who claim to support you may plant seeds of doubt in your mind. The more you talk, the more obstacles you create for yourself. Weak men believe that speaking about their plans brings them closer to success. They mistake words for action. They think that sharing their ambitions will hold them accountable, that validation from others will keep them motivated. But all it does is give away their power. The strongest men, the most formidable strategists, move in silence. A man who talks too much about his plans invites resistance. He exposes his vulnerabilities. He gives others time to prepare against him. Silence, on the other hand, is unpredictable. When people do not know your next move, they cannot counter it. They cannot block what they cannot see. This uncertainty makes them uneasy. It keeps them on edge, forcing them to react instead of strategizing against you. When success comes suddenly, without warning, it has the greatest impact. No one can argue against results that are already undeniable. A man who works in silence lets his actions speak for him, and when they do, no words are needed. Epictetus said it best: "Don't say, act. Don't promise, prove." Emma used to be the kind of person who shared everything. Every business idea, every goal, every ambition. She believed that by speaking it into existence, she was making it real. She thought that telling others would hold her accountable, that validation from friends and colleagues would give her momentum. But every time she shared, something happened. People gave their opinions, most of them negative. Some doubted her. Some questioned whether she was capable. Others, perhaps threatened by her ambition, subtly discouraged her. She began to notice that every time she talked about her plans, they lost power. Instead of working toward them, she found herself stuck, responding to doubts, explaining herself, defending her choices. Then she decided to change. She went silent. No more public declarations, no more telling the world what she was going to do. Instead, she focused on execution. While others debated their next move, she was already making hers. Months passed. She worked in private, no distractions, no outside noise. And when she finally revealed her success, there was nothing anyone could say. It was done. No one could argue with results. That's the power of making moves in silence. Imagine a soldier revealing his battle plan before the fight begins. Imagine a poker player showing his hand before the bets are placed. Imagine a chess player announcing his next move before executing it. They would lose. Every time. When you talk too soon, you give others an advantage. You allow them to prepare against you, to plant doubt in your mind, to shift the circumstances before you even get started. Your goals are not for public discussion. They are for private execution. There is an undeniable strength in silence. It signals control. It signals focus. A man who does not seek validation before achieving results is a man who operates on a different level. The next time you set a goal, keep it to yourself. Do not explain. Do not seek approval. Do not waste energy convincing others of what you are about to do. Instead, do the work. Success will speak for you, and when it does, no explanation will be needed. A man who moves in silence is a man who commands respect, not through words, not through promises, but through undeniable results. That is how you make your enemies fear you, not by talking, but by delivering. 7. Be unapologetically yourself. A man who bends to please everyone pleases no one. A man who conforms to the expectations of others loses himself in the process. The moment you stop seeking validation, you become someone that others cannot manipulate, cannot control, and ultimately cannot ignore. Weak men spend their lives chasing approval. They mold themselves to fit into spaces they were never meant to belong in. They change their opinions, adjust their behavior, and suppress their true selves, all for the fleeting comfort of acceptance. But a man who is truly free, he does not seek permission to exist as he is. He owns his presence, unapologetically. Jace once struggled with this. He wanted to fit in, at work, in his social circle, even in relationships. He adjusted his personality to make others comfortable. He agreed when he wanted to disagree. He laughed at jokes he didn't find funny. He kept quiet when he had something to say, fearing judgment. And for what? To be liked? To avoid conflict? But deep down, he felt like a stranger in his own life. He wasn't living, he was performing. One day he stopped. He started speaking his mind, even when it wasn't the popular opinion. He stopped justifying his choices, stopped explaining his values. He lived by his standards, not those set by others. At first, people noticed. Some distanced themselves. Some resisted the change. But the ones who mattered stayed. And something else happened. He earned respect. Not because he tried to impress, but because he stopped trying to impress altogether. Stoicism teaches us that the only approval that matters is the one we give ourselves. Live according to your own standards, not the standards of others. Not everyone will like you. Not everyone will agree with you. And that's not a weakness, it's a sign that you stand for something real. Imagine a towering mountain. It does not move to accommodate the wind. It does not shift to make itself more appealing. It stands firm, unshakable, and because of that, it commands awe. This is how you must be. The moment you stop fearing rejection, stop seeking validation, stop adjusting yourself for the comfort of others, you become untouchable. A man who does not need approval is a man who cannot be controlled. And a man who cannot be controlled is a man who demands respect without saying a single word. When you live for the approval of others, you are never truly free. Your self-worth becomes tied to opinions that are constantly shifting. One moment you are praised, the next you are criticized. If you depend on external validation, you will always be at the mercy of others. People sense when you crave approval, and the more you seek it, the less they respect you. Neediness repels power. When someone knows they have influence over your emotions, they will use it, consciously or unconsciously, to control you. The strongest men in history were not the ones who sought approval. They were the ones who set the standard for themselves. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic emperors, wrote, "If you live according to nature, you will never try to impress. You will simply be." The key is detachment. Detachment from praise. Detachment from criticism. Detachment from the idea that your worth is dictated by others. The man who is self-sufficient, who does not need to be liked, who does not need validation, commands power without speaking a word. Think of the men who spend their lives trying to fit in, the ones who constantly adjust their behavior, opinions, and personality to match those around them, the ones who seek approval at every turn. What do they gain? Temporary acceptance, superficial connections, a life where they are liked but never respected. Now think of the ones who stand firm, the ones who say what they believe, live how they want, and refuse to apologize for who they are. They are not always liked, but they are respected, admired, and most importantly, free. When you try to be everything for everyone, you become nothing. When you refuse to change for others, you become something unshakable. The first step is recognizing that not everyone will like you, and that's a good thing. The more you embrace your authenticity, the more you filter out the people who were never meant to be in your life. The second step is to stop justifying yourself. You do not owe the world an explanation for your choices. The moment you stop explaining, you shift the power dynamic. The third step is to become immune to praise and criticism. Accept compliments with the same neutrality as you accept insults. Praise does not define you, neither does criticism. The only thing that matters is what you believe about yourself. A man who is unapologetically himself does not need to demand respect. He attracts it. He does not need to prove his worth. He knows it. He does not bend for approval. He stands firm in his truth. The moment you stop needing acceptance, you gain something far greater: absolute freedom. Power is not in loud declarations. It is not in proving yourself to the world, nor in seeking approval from those who do not matter. True power is silent, controlled, and unshakable. You have learned that your emotions must be mastered, not displayed. That your presence should command respect without words. That your actions will always speak louder than anything you say. You now understand the strength of indifference to insults, the importance of controlling what others know about you, and the necessity of moving in silence. Most importantly, you know that being unapologetically yourself is the ultimate act of defiance against a world that demands conformity. Each of these lessons is a tool, a weapon, a shield, but only if you use them. Knowledge without action is useless. Knowing how to control your emotions means nothing if you still react to every provocation. Understanding the value of mystery is wasted if you continue to reveal your plans before they happen. If you truly want to be the man who others cannot manipulate, cannot predict, and ultimately cannot break, you must practice these principles every single day. Start now. The next time someone tries to provoke you, remain still. The next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, resist. The next time you want to announce your next move, keep it to yourself. Let this be the moment you choose control over reaction, discipline,